All right. Well, welcome to Live Lessons. Apologize for some of the technical difficulties that have been going on this evening. It's going to be a great night. It's a cold night here in Nashville, Tennessee. And we're going to be talking about, tonight we're going to be talking about guitar care. And if you have any questions about, gosh, anything related to that sort of stuff, how to set up a guitar, maintaining your guitar, humidity, pickup height, string, all that kind of stuff, we're going to have our good friend Greg Voros from the legendary Gruhn's Guitars here in Nashville, Tennessee. Greg is going to be with us. We're glad that you are with us as well. Go ahead and type in where you're from. That's always fun for me to see. If y'all are from all over the world, we have people. Staten Island, New York, I see. Toronto, Canada. Wisconsin, Michigan. There they all come. Arizona, Nacogdoches, Texas. New Orleans. Glad you all are here. Very glad that you guys are here. Sorry we had to cancel last week's lesson. We had a little bit of an ice storm scare here, and we were going to have Rick Vito with us, and Rick's going to be with us actually next week to make up for it. So anyway, to get us started, I wanted to play a little bit for you. I'm playing on a Gibson J45 today, and I've got a capo up here at the, the 7th fret, and we'll just let y'all see if you can guess the name of this song. A little bit of Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, as we're here on a very cold night where it's completely dark here in Nashville, Tennessee. Anyway, thought I would play that. Remind me of summertime when it's not so cold. So anyway, let me go ahead and introduce you to Greg. Come on out. While Greg is coming out, we're so honored to have you, Greg, here
Steve,
with us.
Thanks for having me again.
It's always great, always a pleasure having you here with us. Greg is one of the many wonderful guitar techs at Gruhn's Guitars here in Nashville, Tennessee, and now you head up the repair department
at Gruhn's
Guitars.
I sure do.
How long have you been doing repair work?
A long time, about 12 years now. 12 years now I've been repairing instruments.
Wow. And it's always been guitars? Have you repaired other things along the way?
It's always been guitars. Now working for George Gruhn, the occasional mandolin and banjo. Yeah. But I prefer to do guitars. Old archtop acoustic guitars is what I prefer.
One of the things that Gruhn's is known for is their work on vintage instruments. In fact, the Blue Book, as it would be for vintage instruments, was actually written by George Gruhn.
That's right.
So if you want to know the value of that 1956 whatever you have underneath your bed, you would go to the George Gruhn Guide to Vintage Guitars.
Being able to date the instrument and exactly knowing what you have from what period, the Gruhn Guide will be able to do that for you. Really quickly, it's laid out very, very smart. So it's every repairman at Gruhn Guitars has a Gruhn Guide at their bench at all times, and we go through to it number one. That's what we need. That's really all we need.
Yeah, it is amazing, this process of evaluating vintage instruments. You just don't know. I mean, that old guitar that you got from your dad way back when, that has been sitting in your closet for the last 20 years, that may just be an old guitar.
Sure.
Or it may be a 1956 model or whatever that is something that you could retire on.
We've seen it all. We've seen it all. We've seen folks bring in D45s, unbelievable instruments with these folks having no clue of what the instrument is worth, and then all of a sudden, they find out what they have is worth, $100,000 or so. But George will be the first one to tell you that, just because it's old doesn't mean that it's collectible and it's worth something. But
that's right.
But we're there every day, and folks bring in guitars every single day for us to check out for appraisals and such.
Greg does guitar setup work, normal maintenance on guitars, and then all the way down to the most complex of jobs. I have seen all kinds of guitars on your bench at one point or the other. One of the more memorable ones, I saw Chet Atkins' guitar that was given to him by Les Paul.
That's it.
And Greg was working on it. Greg was the one putting it together.
It's pretty amazing, the instruments that come through Gruhn Guitars, and we're unbelievably lucky as being repairmen up there to not only be able to repair these and work on these instruments, but to be able to touch them.
Yeah.
And you really know these instruments inside and out, and it's something very special, I think.
Yeah. It's amazing. We already have questions coming in. I knew we would have a bunch of questions. Wow, they're already coming in. Before we get to those questions, let's just talk about normal care and maintenance for the average guy out there of a guitar. Talk to me about what you should have done on your guitar.
An instrument is going to need a setup at least once a year.
No, what do you mean by setup? What all is done in that process?
You adjust the neck. You make sure that the action. You make sure that the instrument plays 100% as well as it should. And a flat top or an acoustic instrument is going to need a little bit more attention than, say, an electric guitar. But it's going to move around on you. A flat top acoustic instrument is super sensitive to the conditions around, and you want to make sure that the humidity levels are always monitored, especially on a newer built instrument for sure. So getting 2 setups a year is super important, or being able to know what to look for to know that your instrument is needing humidity or it has too much.
Right. And especially this time of year where the heater is going
That's right.
all the time, it just sucks that humidity out of the air.
That's right.
And we get dry skin and all sort of things like that, but it is also affecting your instrument. And so humidifiers and keeping a watch on the humidity inside your guitar is a very important thing, especially this time of year. And there's all sorts of little things like small humidifiers you can put in your guitar?
Everything from a little Dampit, which is really a sponge inside of a rubber hose, will help quite a bit. I actually seen an instrument from a friend of ours, gave me his guitar that had it by their fireplace for not really long. I think it might have been literally a month or two during the coldest the coldest days, and the fire is roaring and it looks beautiful, and then you have the guitar on a stand. By the time I got my hands on it, literally you couldn't play any of the strings open because the top had sunk so much that the strings were laying on the fingerboard, and it took me about 2 weeks to introduce humidity back into that instrument so that it would swell back up and the action would come back up. But you can really do damage
you could do
pretty
some
quick.
Serious damage on your guitar
pretty quick
if you're not paying attention to it. Some signs that your guitar may be dry during these times are sharp frets.
Sharp fret ends.
If you're running your fingers, running your hand along the frets, and you feel these sharp edges. Gosh, that didn't used to be that way.
Right.
Well, what's happening is that wood is shrinking ever so slightly because of the lack of humidity.
That's right.
In the air. don't panic. It's nothing that, oh my goodness, my guitar is ruined. You can get humidity back into that instrument.
Absolutely. Now the same thing will happen on an electric guitar, but acoustic guitars, there's just way more exposed wood, so it's a little bit more sensitive. But electric guitar players get the same thing, especially around the fingerboard.
Yep. All right, guitar setups. Well, gosh, my guitar plays fine. Why should I get a setup done? Everyone needs a setup, especially if you just got that brand new instrument for Christmas. It was underneath the Christmas tree. You're all excited about it.
That's right.
And take that thing, immediately take it down to the local music store. If you don't know anything about setting up your own instrument, take it down to the local music store. Get a setup job done on that guitar. They'll change the strings. They'll adjust there's a rod within the neck of a guitar called a truss rod.
Truss rod.
And that can be adjusted, and it ever so slightly moves that neck forward or backward, and that affects how high the strings are off of the fretboard, which is called the action. And if those strings are pretty high off that fretboard, that guitar's hard to play. Next thing you know, you're cussing at me because I'm trying to teach you guitar, and because your guitar's all hard to play. And when that could have been fixed with a simple setup job.
That's right. Sometimes it's just a quick truss rod adjustment, but there's a real delicate balance between where the truss rod adjusted to in terms of like on this flat top where the saddle is height wise. There's a definite balance there, and there's a very specific measurement for everything having to do with your guitar. I've heard a lot of people play an instrument, a lot of repair guys, a lot of guys in general that kind of tinker with their own stuff, play and they say, oh, this feels great, or yeah, it's about right, or so on and so forth. And that's cool. I mean, a good player will feel a good playing guitar, but every feel has a very specific measurement too. And that's pretty important. That's why every single instrument could be set up pretty well if it's a functional instrument.
All right. Wow. Let's get into some questions. Jason Braganza is asking, I'm in India. What about too much humidity?
That's a problem too, yeah.
That's a problem too.
That's a problem too, absolutely. It's not as big of a problem as having a lack in humidity and moisture inside your guitar. You can get away with way more in terms of being exposed to a lot more humidity.
Is there anything they should be checking on and be careful about it in a very humid environment? Seattle, Washington, if you're around any sort of thing where it's just damp all the time.
I'll be honest with you, I very rarely deal with folks having huge issues with that. It's just not, it doesn't seem to be like a huge problem. And there's easy way, just the same way you can put humidity back into an instrument, there's ways to draw it out with silica packs, or I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. But I think it drying out is way more damaging.
Yeah, damages the instrument a lot more. Rock and Roll Manny 29 is asking, so is it okay if I store my guitar in my guitar case?
Sure.
Of course.
If you're going to store it for a long period of time, for a few years, which I don't recommend anyway because you need to play the instrument, but if you're going to go that route, it's probably a good idea to tune it down about a step before you store it for a long period of time.
Tuning it down takes that pressure off of the strings and off of that neck.
That's right.
So if you know that your guitar is going to be unplayed for a good period of time, then go ahead and loosen the strings a little bit, let some of that tension off, or that neck is always be intense. Another thing, if you're flying, this is just a little bit of a trick. If you're flying with your instrument, go ahead and before you check that, detune it a little bit and let that pressure off of that neck, because you get that thing up in the air and there's changes in temperature very quickly and all kinds of, you just want to be careful with it.
Especially where it's stored, sure.
Yeah. All right. One more question on this, and then we're going to talk to some regular stuff. Darby 3 is asking, on a non-finished wood top guitar, would polish affect the sound adversely? Would polish keep it from absorbing dirt? Any idea of how to fix this?
Well, I've never seen a flat top instrument without any finish on the top.
Now, sometimes they'll have a satin finish.
That's right.
So don't be fooled. Sometimes it's kind of has a real natural look to it, but that's just a satin finish. So there is a real thin finish on.
Right, and if that's the case, and you have a matte or satin type finish on it, I mean, as long as you're cleaning that top with something that doesn't change the sheen, you're going great. Now, if you actually do have an instrument that doesn't have finish on the top of it, then I'd be really worried in what you're going to put on top of it, as far as it's going to absorb.
It's going to absorb whatever you have put on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So probably you want to get some sort of a finish on that instrument. If it truly does not have anything on it, then yeah, it's going to suck up dirt. It's going to suck up oils from your hand. It's going to suck up water. It's going to suck up anything that is around that.
Sure.
So yeah, get some sort of a finish on that guitar. All right, cool. Let's talk about a couple things. We've already talked about humidity, dryness, humidifiers, those little Dampit humidifiers that Greg mentions from our good friends over at Dampit. We haven't given some of those away. We're going to give some away maybe next time. It's just a little, you can pick them up at any music store. It's a little green tube about, 8 inches long or so.
That's it.
You soak it.
You soak it. You wring it out. You wring it out really well. It shouldn't be dripping water when you're putting it inside your acoustic instrument. Mm-hmm. And it comes with a little clip, and you can hang it right off the string. Mm-hmm. You can put it right back in the case, and it's good to go.
You just want, when you're trying to do things like that, you don't want anything drippy. Mm-mm. You don't want drippy water. That's bad. Another thing, you want to be smart about your instrument. It's really wood and glue.
That's it.
So you got to be careful with it. When you having your guitar next to the roaring fire may look absolutely great on pictures and things like that.
Right.
Wow, that is really bad.
Right.
For your instrument, the change in temperature, change in humidity, all that sort of stuff just wreaks havoc on your instrument. No matter how great it looks by the fireplace.
Looks great, though.
It looks great. Man, it looks great. But it'll never play again.
Right.
Very well. Also, another thing, changing temperature on the guitar is not really great. It's really cold this time of year. Let's say your guitar's been in your trunk for the last all day long. You take it out, immediately whip it out of its case and set it next to the heater vent. Bad. That's bad.
Right.
This guitar ever so slightly expands and contracts.
That's right.
And you'll ruin your finish.
That's right.
You may do damage to the wood. You want to let it acclimate to the temperature of the room. If it's cold, you bring it in, you leave it in its case, and you just let it get acclimated to the temperature of the room for a while. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when we get instruments in at Gruhn Guitars, literally as soon as they get delivered, we let them sit for, sometimes an hour and change, and we just leave it there. We don't even open the box or anything. You want to let it acclimate to the temperature around it, and that's very, very important. If you ever mail order an instrument, and it shows up at your front door, and the first thing you do is bring it in and you tear right into it because you want to see it, it's not something I would recommend.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's talk about things that go wrong on a guitar. When bad things happen to good instruments, some typical things that happen are the bridge coming up.
Right.
Tell us about that. Is it fixable? How do you recognize there's a problem? Things like that.
Well, what you wind up having a lot of times is on a flat top instrument is the action goes up quite a bit, and you don't realize why. Mm-hmm. And then what winds up happening on this one, it's not likely because underneath these two inlays, there's actually two screws holding down the bridge. But so you're not likely to have it lift much. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times that it does lift, it's not a problem at all. But that is not a repair that I'd want to do yourself.
Yeah.
That is not a repair at all. But it's 100% fixable, and we do that kind of repair all the time.
Even adjusting your truss rod is definitely something that you can do, but you got to know what you're doing.
That's right.
If you just get in there and, I've got a socket wrench, you're going to end up with your guitar neck at your knees.
That's right.
Because it's just you put too much pressure on it, you go it the wrong way, you deal with quarters of turns and things like that. You don't necessarily want your neighbor in there going shink chink shink chink shink chink with your neck.
It's not really it's not really hard once you have the knowledge of how to do it. Once you have it, you can do it very easily. But man, if you don't know little things, or if you don't know exactly how much or where your neck should be, your setup could be completely off, and you could actually be damaging your instrument too.
Cool. We've already covered so many of these things. Fret ends sticking out. What are some of the hardest repairs you've ever done? Ooh, that's a good one.
The ones that keep me up at night. I mean, a ton of them. I do a ton of cool big projects. The bigger projects give you tons of headaches, and no job is easy. Every single one of them is going to be a little bit of a battle. You know, you're pretty much battling yourself when you're doing it, but a lot of the guys at the store too, I see the jobs that they jump into, and they jump in, you know, 2 feet, they commit all the way, and it's tough. Some of the repairs, it's not cut and dry. It's not replacing components, replacing this component for that component. You're making parts, and it takes a lot of. Sometimes I find myself just sitting back and staring at a project for a good half hour, 45 minutes, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to even attempt to repair it. You know, but tons of them. I mean, there's just all of them. All the ones that you wind up getting respect for in the long run are extremely difficult.
When a guitar is cracked, how is that repaired? Is it repairable?
Everything is repairable. It just has to do with how much time you put into it. If someone accidentally, you know, had a guitar fall or something goes through the top of your instruments and it caves in and there's splinters of wood everywhere, can you repair that to make it look like it never happened before? Sure. Yeah. It just takes time and money. But everything is repairable. It's just, you know, when we're talking about a $150,000 instrument at Gruhn's, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth me spending X amount, 3-6 months on it, doing 10 grand worth of repairs or whatever it might be. Sure, it's worth it. On other instruments, you know, not so much. But you know, it's every job is hard. Every single one of them, especially if you're a perfectionist and you want to do a good job and give a great quality service back to the customer, you're going to lose sleep. I don't care, you know, who you are and how good you are. The best repairmen, I guarantee it, in the country are at Gruhn Guitars. There's a ton of great repairmen, don't get me wrong, but those guys, even the best of them, even the best, 20 years experience, man, those guys are leaving scratching their heads. And the one thing that they have over a guy that's been doing it 5 or 10 years is maybe they learn how to tune it out once they get home. You know, but that's about it. Every job is hard.
One of the things that just for an average player that you'll need to know and be aware of is keeping your guitar clean, polishing, cleaning your guitar, things like that. What to use on a guitar, what not to use on a guitar. So let's talk about that. One of the great questions we already have here. SP Max, is Pledge furniture polish good or bad for guitar?
No good.
No good. No. Why is it no good?
You would think it would be good, but it's really not. It actually puts a film on your instrument. And I've seen guys use a lot of it through the years, and they say, oh, the best thing you can use is Pledge. Well, not really, because it actually creates a film. You keep using it over and over. That film gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and that's just not good. What you want to do is clean the instrument, and ideally not change the sheen. In the vintage guitar world, you know, what we're doing is not altering the natural sheen of the instrument. There's nothing worse than having an awesome 75-year-old instrument that's shiny, like you just buffed it on a wheel. That's not what you want. So there's polishes on the market today that really alter the sheen and make things very, very shiny. It sparkles, but for me, that's not what I like. I just like a nice, clean instrument.
The on the Pledge front, it's a common question with can furniture polish be used? It's not going to hurt your guitar, but here's the deal. As you spray it on there, if you can run your fingers on it after you've wiped it off and it's dried, if you can run your fingers on it and you get this, you can see where your fingers have run across the top of that guitar, okay, then it's left that film.
That's right.
And that's one of the things that furniture polishes with wax are going to leave. So you get this wax, and it will build up on your guitar.
It'll build up, absolutely.
Good things to do. Here's what I normally do. Is I'll take, if my guitar is dirty or the neck's gunked up or something like that, I'll get a paper towel, and you correct me because you're the expert. I'll get a paper towel, and I'll just make it damp, not drippy, just kind of damp. And I'll kind of run it over here, and that just to get the big gunk off, the big schmutz off the back of it. And then I'll get a good cleaner polish, and then start doing the work on it. It may take a time or two over it to get everything you need to get off of it. But it's important to keep your guitar clean. Here's another tip on that: is wash your hands Hey, didn't your mom never teach you to wash your hands? When you come to your guitar, wash your hands before you start playing. You'll find that your strings will last longer. Your guitar won't get gunked up. All kinds of great things happen when you come at it with not oils on your fingers. Everyone has oils on their fingers, so it's always a good idea to wash your hands before you play.
A good fingerboard conditioner also helps quite a bit. And going back to the humidity question, it's not a bad idea that if you're going to change your strings maybe every other time or every time you do it, get a good quality fretboard conditioner and spray it on the board itself with a paper towel. It'll absorb what it wants. You can wipe off the rest. That's a really good idea too.
What about like lemon oil and things like that?
Lemon oil is great. What you're going to get as far as companies making lemon oil, none of it is 100% lemon oil. It's a very small percentage of it is lemon oil, and the rest of it is a carrier like a mineral oil. But it's all great. It's all good stuff. I like lemongrass oil. That's what we use. And
now let me ask you this:
Sure.
What are some chemicals that should never see the top of your instrument? Alcohol, one of them.
Absolutely. Petroleum distillate, acetone, lacquer thinner, all that is going to do great damage to your instrument because odds are it's going to be a lacquer finish.
Not a little damage over time. We're talking about you drop a drop of rubbing alcohol or I don't know, goof off maybe. I don't know if that would do it.
I think that might have acetone in it.
Anything that has that sort of alcohol base to it, a couple of drops of that, and it'll just shoot.
Right.
And that's it.
Now the one solvent that actually works well as a cleaner is lighter fluid, which is naphtha, and that works really well, and that won't damage your instrument at all.
Cool.
Yeah. So that works really well, and it's a really good cleaner too, and it's it's not great for you, so you might want to put on some gloves if you're going to use it. I mean, I don't recommend it, but you can.
Yeah.
That won't damage it, and that's a petroleum distillate.
Yeah.
So.
And you're not cleaning your whole guitar with it.
Right.
You're getting one little spot of it that's got some gunk on it.
Right.
Sort of a thing. Let's talk about frets and fret damage. A lot of times, if you've had an instrument for a while, you're going to start seeing grooves on the frets. Can that be fixed?
Absolutely, and you should definitely have it fixed because those grooves on the frets are going to give you intonation problems. Anytime that string rests in that groove, you're that much flatter or sharper than that intended note should be. So in that case, what you would do is a level and polish or a grind and polish, and then every single fret at that point is sanded down to the same height to remove the grooves. And then each fret is recrowned one by one with a fret crowning tool. Then you polish it out, and what you actually have is a fret that has the same look as a brand new fret, except it's a little shorter.
Yeah. So you can't really do that every year or something like that. You can only do it a couple of times, and then you just run out of fret. There's only so much fret to file.
But that's great. I mean, if you're in that boat where your problem is putting fret wear in your instrument, odds are you're going to be a pretty good player.
Yeah.
And so that's a good problem to have, I think.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
All right. One or two questions, and then we're going to get on to some other stuff and take some questions that have come in off of our discussion board. Do you also use fretboard conditioner on a natural wood unfinished neck?
That's when you actually want to use it. You want that to penetrate.
You want it, yeah.
Right. You want it to penetrate into the pores and stay there. If anything has finish on it, you would never use a fretboard conditioner on anything with finish on it. You would use a cleaner or a polish.
There's two products.
Right.
There's your guitar polishes, and then there's your guitar fretboard conditioners, things like that.
One of them's an oil. And
one of them's an oil, yeah.
And the other one is
different
not.
Things.
Right.
So you don't want to necessarily take your fretboard conditioner and lather it all up on your guitar.
No.
That would be bad.
It would get oily, and eventually it'll come off. It's not going to do damage for you, but it'll be slippery and gross. You don't want that.
You want oils to go into that neck. If you find that your neck of your guitar, on the facing part of it, that part of here, it's dry, it's kind of bumpy, you can see the ridges of the wood.
Sure.
That's your neck screaming to you, saying, I need some oil, I'm thirsty.
Right.
And that's where that fretboard conditioner.
Right, and I always use 4-0 grade steel wool.
For polishing the frets.
Yeah, for polishing the frets, it cleans off any kind of finger schmutz you might have on your board.
Now, is that gonna also tear up your fingerboard.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I've actually had this one on the forums as a question. No, I mean, if you took a piece of 4.0 grade steel wool and worked one area of the fingerboard for about 2 or 3 or 4 years, then you would start wearing a groove into it. But no, what I do is I take the steel wool and I actually spray the conditioner on the board and I spread it around with the steel wool, just so it goes everywhere. And I go ahead and polish up, maybe clean out the little crevices, polish up the frets. Always go up and down to clean it up. Paper towel, and then that's that. And you usually have a beautiful, rich looking board at that point with nice shiny frets.
Fantastic. I have a Fender Squier Strat LMG. Jerome is asking, that doesn't stay in tune very long. Any suggestions to help fix that problem?
Yeah, tuners.
Yeah, it's a couple things. It's a system. It's a system of what's going on with that string. Part of that system is these tuners.
That's right.
And that's probably the largest one.
I agree.
You gotta change those every now and then. And if they're giving problems with you, if they're giving problems for you, don't just sit there and wrestle with tuning and go out of tune for the next 10 years of you playing. Go down and get you some new tuners put on that thing. No. It's not the world's largest expense.
No.
And they've got great tuners these days that just lock it in nice and tight. That would be the first thing. If you can tune it up, you play a little bit and it's out of tune. It could either be the string. You're not winding the string to where it's catching on there. How many winds should be on a post?
I put 3 or 4.
Okay, 3 or 4.
On anything wound, maybe a few more on the unwound strings.
On the unwound strings, I personally like to make sure as you're winding over the post that it crosses over itself, and so that way as it tightens, it kind of locks itself in. You don't want 8 or 10 windings up there. That's just more problems that you're going to have.
Sure, more room to slip. Sure.
And you don't want no windings either. Then you have no room for error. If a string, something happens to your string.
They make direct replacement tuners for instruments like that, because I think a lot of folks have tuning issues with some of those lower end instruments.
Yeah, so if
that's really normal. Kluson is a great brand. They make really good tuners, and they're really affordable too. Yeah. Tone Pros is the company. Kluson makes Tone Pros is what it is.
On my Strat, I had the same problem. It was a more inexpensive Strat, and it just wouldn't stay in tune. So I got new tuners on it. Thing's been rock solid ever since.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to a couple of things here. We'll take a break from the questions. We'll let Greg catch his breath for a second and talk about a couple things. Greg did a course for us called Learn and Master Guitar Setup and Maintenance, if I can grab it way over here. In this is it's 3 DVDs, and it will show you, a regular guy who, with some basic tools and a little bit of common sense, how to set up your guitar. And you cover acoustics in there. I
cover acoustic flat tops, acoustic arch tops, electric.
Cover Strats.
Cover a Strat.
Cover a Les Paul.
I do a Les Paul,
guitar,
which are the two main electric guitars. There's the
body types.
Exactly. Yeah. There's the Les Paul, and then there's pretty much the Strat. And every instrument out there could pretty much fall into that category, minus something that has double locking, like a Floyd Rose. But yeah, I think I think a lot of folks find great use in knowing exactly what your truss rod does. Some common myths in terms of what it doesn't do. How much relief you should have in your neck, where your action should be. And I mean, as far as setups go, there's nothing magical about it.
It's math.
You bring it in.
There's numbers.
Exactly. You bring it in, you drop it off. When you pick it up at a music store, it feels unbelievable. And that's really cool. But, I mean, they're not in the back there with a wand. Doing tricks back there.
Yes.
It's really, if you know where to adjust at the right places, and then you have specific measurements, and if you apply it, you get a great setup every single time.
Yeah, and that's what this covers. If you've never touched a guitar before, you're new to it, you got a guitar for Christmas and you're just getting settled into it, take it down to your local music store, have them do the first one on you, have them charge you their $30 or $40 for it. You pick it up, you play great. Now, after you've done that one time, then go get this. For about the price of this,
that's right.
For about the price of what you just paid some guy at the local music store to do it, you're getting taught by Greg, who does guitars for the Stars and who sets up their instruments. It's not. It's not. It's just science. It's numbers and math, and you do it this amount of relief on this type of an instrument, and this will give you a low action. This will give you a medium action, things like that.
I think I lay it out pretty clear, and it's really straightforward. And a lot of people have told me, it's like, Greg, this is great. I think I did a better setup on my own instrument than having a professional do it that I've been paying for this whole time.
Yep. Yep.
I'm not surprised.
Yep.
That's cool, man.
That's how this works. Anyway, it's a great course. Someone is about to win this course. This is a Learn to Master Guitar setup and maintenance. Fabian, maybe you can put up the link to that. We do sell that on our website. So if you aren't the lucky guy that's going to win this or gal, then you can get it on our website too. This one's autographed by Greg. Greg autographed this, and the winner of this is Cellarman Guitar. Cellarman Guitar, Cellarman Guitar. You have just won a Learn to Master Guitar autographed by Greg for your own use. Hey, but what I need you to do is email us right now. Don't wait. Email us at service@legacylearningsystems.com and get us all your information so we can get this out to you. If you don't email us, I gave away 3 things in our last live lesson, and only one of them was actually claimed. So, wow. I mean, we give away guitars, we give away all kinds of good stuff. I'd hate to think that nobody's bothering to even know that they have won. Cellarman Guitar, you have just won this. Email us at service@legacylearningsystems. Congratulations. It is a great resource for any guitar player. Cool. All right, let me play one more thing for you.
Sure.
And then we're going to answer some more questions. So you guys be thinking about your guitar questions. And let me see if I can get plugged back in here. I'm working on, actually I'm going in the studio later on this week, and I'm doing a hymns project of just classic hymns sung throughout the ages, and trying to get that out, and that'll be out probably around March. So I'm actually going in the studio in about 3 days to record that. One of the songs I was going to try and find out some arrangement to is the old hymn, We Gather Together. So I'll see if I can come up and play that for you.
That's great.
There you go. Something like that. Something like that. All right. We're going to take a quick break here, get a drink of water, and we will see you guys in about 60 seconds and answer some more of your questions with Greg Voros.
Legacy Learning Systems' Learn and Master line of courses features an exclusive multimodal learning process to build skills from the ground up. By utilizing 4 modes of learning, reading, listening, watching, and doing, even a complete beginner can follow this easy-to-use program of self-directed study. Building confidence and skills, our system allows the learner to progress through intermediate and advanced levels to full mastery. Each course contains between 12 and 22 DVDs of visual instruction, a full printed workbook, access to our online support community, as well as 3 to 5 audio CDs in our music courses, which include fully produced jam-along tracks. Learn in the privacy of your own home, at your own pace with the Learn and Master family of courses. Bring your dream within reach. Furthering your education, Legacy Learning Systems offers a unique resource to all students, the Learn and Master online community. Here you can communicate with fellow students and course instructors and immerse yourself into an interactive community where knowledge, fun facts, and experiences are shared. Signing up is easy. Take your learning to the next level. The Learn and Master online community. Your place for serious instruction.
All right. Thanks for sticking around for the second half of the broadcast. We're going to get right to your questions. Before we get to some of the questions that have come in on the discussion board, I want to talk a little bit about Gruhn's Guitars, this legendary guitar store here in Nashville. How long have you worked with Gruhn's?
7 years. A little over 7 years I've been with George, and it's incredible. I love it. It's the best guitar shop. It's the best guitar store in the world. I mean, I've been in tons of guitar stores in the country, and as far as what we have instrument-wise and the talent in the repair department, it's the best.
These guys are the Olympic athletes of guitar repairmen. Premium grade.
These guys are unbelievable. You know, I'm unbelievably fortunate to work with these guys. They're the best. We're actually going to be moving here in between May and June. We're changing locations, and it's just a fantastic thing, and we're super thrilled about it. We're going to have a massive grand opening that we're very excited about. We'll probably have a bunch of guys come down and play and hang out and give away a bunch of stuff. It'll be great. It'll be great.
Gruhn's. You can take a look at Gruhn's at Gruhn.com, which is www.gruhn.com, or I believe you can go to guitars.com.
I think it's guitar.com will bring you right to the Gruhn website.
I think whenever the internet was just in its infancy, someone had enough forethought at Gruhn's to say, I bet that would be a good name to get.
That's it.
So I believe it's guitar or guitars.com,
That's
one
it.
of those,
and
it'll take you to Gruhn Instruments. And if you go to that page, it's not a flashy website or anything like that, but what you're going to see on that front page is a introduction by Greg Voros to the repair department of Gruhn's. And they have the first floor with all the instruments there, and just amazing. I've seen instruments there that cost more than my house. And definitely if you have an itch to buy an instrument, leave your wallet at home, and when you go...
You know, it's really amazing. You know, like there's a lot of guitar stores, and there are guitar stores that have cool instruments. You know, whether it be most instrument stores have a handful of instruments that are really, really cool, whether it be old or new or whatever it might be. Pretty much everything at Gruhn's is awesome. Every instrument there is really fantastic, and I think the reason we do so well and stay so busy and is because what you get from Gruhn guitars is exactly what it is. You know exactly what's been done to the instrument when you're buying it. You can find out exactly who even worked on it. And the repair guys get pretty intimate with the instruments, so they know that instrument inside and out. And I think that's why George does so well in terms of his reputation.
Such a trusted name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Along those lines, let's give away something else. This is a regular old poster from Gruhn's Guitars down here. From the store that has been down on Broadway since the 70s.
That hat show print, that's right.
That hat show print. And this one is actually signed by George Gruhn.
That's right.
We had him George sign it just this afternoon. So someone is about to win this. The winner of this poster is Hunt Jason, Huntjason. Hunt Jason, you have just won an autographed, which is rare, an autographed George Gruhn's poster. You can put it up on your wall. That has some serious cool factor.
Yeah, it does.
On that. Okay, right here from downtown Nashville.
That's
right. Cool. All right. Let's get to a couple of the questions that have come in off the discussion board, and then we'll do a few more that are coming in off of that. Cliffy50 from Central Minnesota says, I'm a new student of Learn to Master Guitar, living in Minnesota. The first winter that I have owned a guitar. We're doing winter in a big way with 15 below. Do I need to humidify a solid body electric?
Sure.
Okay, not an acoustic. Acoustics are more sensitive to humidity changes than electrics, but it's a good idea to...
Depending on where you're storing it, you know. I mean, with an electric guitar, it's your frets that are going to tell you when it's dry. The frets will tell the story every time. You'll feel little butter knives as you're running your fingers across the frets. Sometimes they get a little sharper than a butter knife.
Oh yeah, I've had them, but they're sharp enough to kind of give your finger a good scratch as you're going by them.
Yeah, that's why every time you change your strings, just go ahead and lube up that board, and that'll keep it hydrated.
Yeah. What would you suggest to do something like that inside of a gig bag soft padded case? I don't know. It's really more of a fretboard conditioning than really the body humidity.
Right. That's right. And with an electric guitar, you're not going to have a Dampit.
Yeah.
You know, but you can monitor it in different ways.
Jeff BLK72 from Southeast Virginia says the Gibson site gives directions for fretboard cleaning and polishing that quite frankly scare the crap out of me. So the thought of getting sandpaper near my 53-year-old inlays seems nightmarish. I think that some of the inlays in the 50s weren't made of pearl rather than some kind of plastic that was considered flammable. So, and it's no longer made. I think his year is a 59. So how do you level them? Do you think that the 4.0 steel wool alone is enough to clean the board?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, you're not. I mean, even if you use sandpaper, you're not going to light it on. You know, it's not. You're not going to rub it until it explodes into flames. But I wouldn't. I would use 4.0 grade steel wool.
Make very sure that you're using the right type. This is 4.0.
That's right.
4.0 is 0.000.
That's right.
Grade steel wool.
That's
so
right.
Check the.
And that's super fine, and that'll get whatever debris off your fingerboard, and it'll clean up your frets really nicely too.
Yep. And then put the fretboard conditioner on it.
That's right. Truth be told, I don't know what Gibson recommends as far as doing it. What we do and what I've done for years is literally I take a good fretboard conditioner and I spray it on the fingerboard, and I take 4.0 grade steel wool and I make sure that it goes everywhere on the board. I go ahead and clean the frets and the board, and I wipe it off with a paper towel, and that's that.
Yeah.
Nothing more than that.
Fretless from Slovakia asks, I hear an electrical buzzing, not a mains hum, but a buzz in my electric guitar when I'm not touching the strings or the bridge. But as soon as I touch either the strings or the bridge, the buzz disappears.
Sure.
All right. What causes this? Is it a lack of shielding, grounding, or something else? Is it dangerous? And more to the point, how can I get it fixed? It is on a Les Paul with P90s and also on a Squier Jazz bass.
It could be all of it. And the fact that that your pickups aren't hum canceling like a humbucker, like a P90 is really a large single coil pickup.
Yep.
And same with a P or a jazz bass. But yeah, it could be the lighting in your house. It could be a ground issue. It could be all of them. It really, I mean, you just kind of have to go in there and check it out. What I would recommend is go to a buddy's house and plug it in on their amplifier in their house with their lights and see if it does the same exact problem. That's the way I'd go upon doing it.
Quality, it's electrical issue of which I've wrestled with my fair share of this. so that it is not one thing. It's a system of 1,000 different things that could affect it.
Tons of it.
We had a little bit of a buzz before we started recording here. It ended up being I had my power adapter plugged into something, and I needed to have it on the same power as my other thing. That will cause it. If it's a grounding thing with your strings, you put your hand on the strings, and the strings, it stops or it starts or something like that. That's a grounding issue. It could be in your cable. It could be in the wiring of your instrument.
Sure.
It could be in the shield. Make sure you have a good cable.
Sure.
Always check the easiest, cheapest things first. That's kind of my rule of thumb. So get a good quality cable, do that, and see if it affects it. But is it dangerous? Well, it depends on how much current you got going through that thing. I've been in situations where I put my hand on the guitar, and let's say the sound system is not grounded properly, and my lips touch the mic while I'm touching my guitar, and I get a zap that'll make you squeal.
Sure.
So it depends on how much juice is going through that system. Generally, on your electric, there's just not much juice inside of that guitar.
No, I don't think it's yeah.
There's juice in the amp. There's a lot of power there, but not in your guitar.
Right.
Not in your guitar. So
yeah, and I think like a P90 or like single coil pickups on a Strat or a Tele are naturally going to be louder anyway.
Especially around fluorescent fixtures.
Sure.
It's going to pick up these RF frequencies. So anything that's ungrounded in your system, when I'm in the studio, I'll have my Strat, and if I turn this way, it buzzes, but if I turn this way, it stops. Well, that has to do with how close I am to, fluorescent fixtures and all kinds of things, and how well the pickups are shielded and things like that.
I hope that helped.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I really hope that helped.
Not an easy one answer on that. If it's an electrical thing, it could be coming from anywhere.
Right.
What's happening is that your physical body is grounding this as soon as you touch it, and that's why it stops. Tracy from Angler, North Carolina, Tracy Stevenson is asking, is the recommended pickup height different for the humbucker in an HSS Strat? And should it be the same pickup height as the bridge single coil in a normal Strat, or closer to the recommended height for the humbuckers in a Les Paul?
A humbucker, I always set at different heights than single coils. The humbucker, the way I always measure my pickup height
grab my electric here.
Is humbucker is going to be 2/32 measured off the pole piece with the last fret held down. So if you take the last fret and you hold it down, and then you measure the pole piece to the string. On a humbucker, I like 2/32. On a Strat, I will do 3/32, and I measure the two E's. I measure the high E, and then I go and measure the low E. And then once I get my height for the humbucker, 2/32 on a Strat, 3/32, it's cool, and odds are it'll balance really well. But the best way to do it is to plug your guitar in afterwards and really dial it in after the fact. It just so happens that 2/32 and 2/32 does the trick almost every time.
You don't want to. It's definitely the pickup height is something that you want to be aware of that exists. You get that pickup closer to the strings, and it increases your volume. So everybody goes at that point, well, let me get that thing just nailed right up against your strings. No, don't do that.
Right.
That's bad too. It can, the magnetic frequencies from the pickup is going to pull on that string, and it just gets a weird, funky sound. So you need to back it off. But if you back it off a little bit too much, then you're
losing volume.
You're losing volume.
When I do 2/32 and 2/32, a lot of times I'll go ahead and drop the neck pickup just a hair under. So if a person's playing rhythm position and then they go into the treble, the bridge pickup, they get a little bit of a volume jump as well.
Boost. Yeah. Cool. Daniel Alien, Daniel from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, who happens to be our Learn and Master Guitar Student of the Month this month. Daniel, let me just brag on Daniel a little bit. On our blog, he was the Student of the Month. And Daniel, do you remember we had a lesson with Phil Kagi back in December, and Phil Kagi signed an acoustic guitar. Well, who won that acoustic guitar was Daniel, and he was going to give that to his son, I believe it was, maybe nephew, I'm not sure. Anyway, so we had to figure out how to get that guitar signed up there to him, and Daniel, sure enough, a couple weeks later, sent me a picture of him and that young player holding that brand new Phil Kagi signed acoustic guitar. That's great.
That's
Man,
cool.
this is what it's all about.
That's right.
Anyway, Daniel has a question. Should changing or replacing the bridge on an acoustic classical guitar, nylon string guitar, be left only to the hands of a luthier?
Yes. Yes. That repair can go super bad.
Can go bad quick.
Really quickly. Absolutely. And it's not expensive. I think that re-gluing a bridge will cost you right around $100, depending on where you live, maybe 150, maybe even a little bit less than that. That is something definitely left to a pro. You're going to need a clamping caul. You're going to need certain clamps. Depending on what glue you're going to use, odds are that the bridge is not completely off all the way, maybe halfway. Depending on what palette knife you have, how are you going to heat that bridge off to further remove it completely?
Yep.
Then you need to clean it off. Depending on what glue was used to glue it down, you want to use the same glue. If you want to use a different, like an animal glue, to make the instrument sound better. These are all things that are really left to a pro, and especially with the classical, if it's got fan bracing inside of it, you need a special caul to go underneath it. If it's it's a regular flat top dreadnought guitar, that's a hard job in and of itself. You need certain cauls to go in there too. But I think with a classical, you're more likely to crush braces. The braces are thinner in that fan brace system, usually on a classical. So
this might be a good time to mention, Fabian, maybe you can put this link up. There is a service that we have, Legacy Guitar Services. If you've got your prize instrument and you're living somewhere and you're not sure you have a good guitar tech close by, you can send that guitar to Greg, and many of our students have.
Absolutely.
You box it up and you send it to him. He'll take a look at it. He'll give you an estimate. He'll tell you what's wrong with it, how it needs to be fixed, how much it's going to be, how long it's going to take.
Sure.
And you can get to that at the link that Fabian just put up there for Legacy Guitar Services. And when those guitars come in, they go right to Greg.
That's
you
right.
will have Greg work on that prize guitar that, needs something big on. It's got a crack in it or something.
Yeah, I've been really lucky. I've had guitars shipped to me from literally all over the country, from everywhere, literally. Guitars that have smaller jobs needed to huge restoration work. I take all of it on. What I always say is get in contact with me first and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Man, a couple of quick questions. Geach NYC from New York City. I'm going to try and go through these really fast. Can rosewood fretboard shrinkage on an older guitar be reversed? And if so, how? Is it filing the protruding fret ends? Usually unavoidable once the frets have sprouted. That's more of a humidity, I would think. That's getting back to our humidity.
Exactly,
thing.
and it's
you can put humidity back in that instrument.
Absolutely, but it's never really going to grow. Like if you have sharp fret ends, you're not likely to put moisture back in fast enough to where next thing you know, you don't feel the sharp fret ends anymore. Usually at that point, you go ahead and dress your fret ends and really dial those in and humidify the board and take it from there and try to prevent that from happening again.
T-Man 801 Troy says, I'm thinking about getting a Martin acoustic in the coming months and want to know your opinion on them. I've heard the Dreadnought is the most famous of the bunch, with Johnny Cash making the D28 famous. Martins are great guitars.
Yeah, they are. I like them quite a bit.
Hello, hello.
Martin makes a fantastic product. They've been around forever. They are the #1 in terms of the Dreadnought acoustic guitar. They were the first ones to do it. Everything else really came second. So Martin's a great company. I love those guys, and they make a great product. Sure.
Iga Biva, which is Patrick from France, says, when you measure the distance between the string and the fret, or a mic, is it from the bottom of the string or from its axis? I've done it from the bottom of the string because it seems more natural and it's easier to me. I wasn't really sure about what that question was, but I think Greg knows what that is.
Well, when I measure action, it's always with the first fret held down and from the top of the 12th fret to the bottom of the string. And I do that with all the strings, or just the 2 E's in the case of a Les Paul. But it's definitely from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string with the first fret held down.
Yeah. Cool. Wow, I'm just not going to get to these. I'm so sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Pavon, here's one I wanted to get to. Pavon from Port Sanilac, Michigan. Can you use the same guitar polishing cleaner on an acoustic as you would on electric, like the finish on a Strat? And what do you suggest for each type of guitar, or does one polishing cleaner do all guitars? Along with that question, I wanted to recommend... Greg turned me on to this stuff. This is Professor Green's. You can get it at professorgreens.com. And there's a fretboard conditioner, and it's a polish as well. Greg, talk a little bit about these products.
I love it. I hooked up with Professor Green's a few years ago, and they're just amazing. We at Gruhn Guitars, we use a ton of it just because it's an awesome product. The polish cleaner is really a cleaner. It's a water-based cleaner that really cleans your instrument without changing the sheen, which is why I love it. And there's no other product on the market today that doesn't alter the sheen of the instrument. And like I was saying before, in vintage guitars, that's just one thing you don't do. The fretboard conditioner is awesome. It's lemongrass oil with a blend. Most guys are using a mineral oil as their carrier, and that's the bulk of what the conditioning oil is. Professor Green's is a little bit different. It has a blend of almond oil and vitamins in it, and lemongrass oil with mineral oil. It's just a fantastic product. I love the way it absorbs into the wood. I love the way the wood just sucks it right up. It's a nice thick product. It's all natural. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Check them out. If you want to, there's all kinds of guitar cleaners and all kinds of guitar polishes, things like that. Everybody makes them these days. If you want to know what's on the benches of a good hunk of the repairmen at Gruhn's Guitars, it's this stuff. We don't make it. I don't make a dime from this. Professor Green's. Go to professorgreens.com. Get yourself a couple of these. It'll last you years.
A long time. 4 ounces will go a long way.
Cool. All right. All right, I'm just not going to get to everything. Oh, CB56 is asking about a frozen truss rod. I did want to talk about that,
sure.
And then I want to talk about the strap lock after that. If you have a guitar that is where the truss rod is frozen in it, you just can't do it. What should you do?
Stop where you are. That truss rod should move independent in the channel underneath the fingerboard inside the neck. If that's not happening, and you purchase the instrument new, whatever it is, that's a warranty issue.
Yep.
Stop where you are. You shouldn't force it. The truss rod should turn naturally. And if it doesn't, then you need to take that up with the manufacturer. So I would go back to where you purchased the instrument from and take it from there. Now, if it's an instrument that you purchased used from a buddy or Craigslist or whatever it might be, at that point I would take it to a decent repair guy and have him mess with it. A lot of times you can lubricate the nut, knowing exactly how much torque to put on it comes with experience. And sometimes I look at people's faces when I'm manhandling truss rods, and customers are looking at me and they're like, "Oh boy, oh boy." But at the same time, I've done this thousands of times, and I know for what instrument you can get away with what.
Yeah.
They're
not loose. I mean, it should never be loose, and it's not going to be you put the thing on and you go, "Oh, look at that."
Right.
It always takes a little bit of force, but if that thing is locked, and sometimes, by golly, they are, stop.
Yeah, stop where you're doing.
Don't rear back and say, "You want that thing to move? I'll make it move."
Right.
Don't do that.
Not a good idea.
You're going to hurt your guitar.
Right.
One last question. All right, let's put that down. I want you to get this. I have had this question asked to me so many times that I thought I am going to cover this with Greg. All right, let me unplug this. Let's say you get your new prize acoustic guitar, and you want to, but it doesn't. You want to use it with a strap because you want to use it standing. Okay, where do you put the strap button for that? This guitar is a Gibson J45, and when I got this, it didn't have a strap button either. It had the thing on the back where you plug it in for the pickup, and so that was one end. But then what do you do with the other? And Greg installed this strap button for me. Tell us about that thing. Can a regular guy do this? Where should you put it?
It really depends. When you're somebody at home can do it, and that's cool. If you're going to be installing a strap button into a vintage guitar, it's a little bit different than a modern guitar. The wood is a little bit is aged, so you're going to have to drill actually a smaller hole to accept the screw of the strap button, as opposed to a newer instrument. But I've seen it a couple different ways. I've seen folks put it right in the bottom of the heel, and that doesn't really do anybody any good, because when you put the strap on it and you're playing the guitar in a natural position, it wants to dip forward.
It does. So I don't like it when I play guitars that have that on it.
Yeah, and it's not good. And I've had people say, I want it right there, and I tell them, well, actually, if you do it on the passenger side, on the treble side, on an instrument, in this area, on an angle following the contour of the heel, once you put a strap on it, it'll actually balance itself perfectly. It'll almost kind of sit right down onto you when you have the strap on it. Now, having like a wide heel Gibson neck like this, it's kind of tough to judge exactly where to put it. So and angling it so that it actually it's nice and flush with the heel when you put it on. There's nothing worse than seeing a strap button that's put at a different angle and it's seated on one area and it's completely loose on the other.
Yeah.
On a wide heel, I'd get a professional to install it. It doesn't cost much. I think we charge, a lot of times we even do it for free. I think we might even charge like $15, 10 or 15. We might charge for the strap button itself, and we'll take care of it real quick. But on a Martin, I pretty much measure the bottom of the heel to the top of the fingerboard. I go right in half, and then half of the thickness of the heel itself, right on an angle in there. And it takes some getting used to, and you can do it yourself for sure. I mean, I think if you have a nice J45 or a 50 or a nice Martin, I'd probably get somebody to do it.
Yeah.
But definitely, I'm not a fan of putting it into the bottom of the heel.
Yeah. And if you're nervous about whipping out the old DeWalt drill and heading toward your guitar, that's enough to cause nightmares in anyone.
Sure.
Then go down to the local music store and have the guy do it there.
Absolutely. The key is you don't want to use one drill bit. You want to walk it up. I always use maybe 1, 2, or even 3 drill bits from small to large before I put it in. Before I put the strap button in, and that's important too. So if you go to a music store and the repair guy loads up a giant drill bit and just starts to go at it,
All right, we are way over time. Let me cover a couple of last-minute announcements here. We're going to give away 2 more things. Greg brought some shirts from Gruhn's Guitars, so somebody is going to win. Hold this.
Sure.
Somebody's going to win some Gruhn's Guitars shirts. Wow. These are great shirts. I'd like to get one of these shirts. Gruhn's Guitars. All right. You can't get them anywhere, but Gruhn's in Nashville, Tennessee.
That's right.
All right, this one, we're going to give away 2 of these. We got 2 shirts, so we're going to give these both away. So we're going to have 2 winners of this. The first winner of this is Leinster 1. Leinster 1, L-I-N-E-S-T-E-R, number 1. You have just won a Gruhn's t-shirt. And, ooh, this is a cool one. This one, Uncle Hammy. Uncle Hammy, you have just won this t-shirt from Gruhn's Guitars. And I have a Gruhn's hat that I wear all the time because I love it. Anyway, send in your stuff at service@legacylearningsystems.com. Send in your information, and we can get you fixed up with all of that on what to do. And we can send us in your address and phone numbers and things like that, and we'll send it out to you. All right, a couple of last-minute announcements, and then we got to get out of here. A couple of guitar events that are around. I am on Billy McLaughlin's fingerstyle guitar, his email list, and he's got a big concert at the Michigan Fingerstyle Guitar Society on Saturday, January 26th. He's giving a workshop and a concert. So if you can catch him, man, this is Billy McLaughlin. Are you familiar with him? Oh, gosh, he's great.
Really?
He's a great, brilliant player. He developed a disease that caused a weakness in one of his hands. It is a guitar player's death sentence.
Wow.
This is what Billy McLaughlin did. Okay? It destroyed his life. He lost his record contracts, lost everything. And then as he sat in his house, he thought, I wonder if I could play left-handed.
No.
And he retrained himself to play guitar left-handed. That was a couple of years ago. Now he is back up to a concert professional level again, back doing concerts, and is an incredible spokesman for this disease.
That's incredible.
A riveting story. I would love to get him on live lessons sometime. His playing is amazing. Look him up, Billy McLaughlin, on YouTube, and enjoy. Anyway, he's giving a workshop and a concert this Saturday in Michigan. We already talked about Learn to Master Guitar setup. If you have questions for guitars and guitar care and stuff like that we didn't get to here, we have a discussion board that Greg is on about once a week or so.
You know,
well, it's every couple of weeks.
I try, you know, I try and get to it when I can, and when I do, I try and answer all the questions, and I really want to be helpful. I got a lot of stuff cooking, and there's a lot of broken guitars all over the place.
You can ask Greg directly those questions. Fabian, maybe you can put up the link to our discussion board.
I promise I'll get to all of it.
And Greg will get to them in time if you're patient. We already talked about Learn to Master Guitar services. All right, our newsletter came out last week. Our Learn to Master Guitar newsletter, I have some tips in there and videos and all kinds of things. So if you haven't gotten that and aren't on our email list, then Fabian, maybe you can put up the link to our newsletter page, and you can get our official newsletter. It's free, nothing. You just email it to you. Next week we're going to do Rick Vito, since we couldn't do him last week. Rick Vito is the guitarist for Fleetwood Mac. And gosh, has played with everybody over the years. You ever heard those car commercials with Bob Seger's song "Like a Rock"? And you hear that great slide? That's Rick Vito, and Rick Vito will be here with us next week, talking about blues slide guitar. Played with Bonnie Raitt. He's played with everybody over the years. Little Richard. Oh gosh, he's played with everybody. He's going to be here with us next week. So make plans to join us then. On February 12th, I just booked this week. Jack Pearson, our good friend Jack Pearson from the Allman Brothers, is going to be here with us next week, or not next week, on February 12th. We'll have Jack Pearson. Got some new lessons up on Skills House. I have a new lesson teaching about different types of distortion pedals and how to tell between distortion pedals, overdrives, and fuzzes, and things like that. Some of the other guys have put up song lessons. They're doing some good ones this week. We got Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top and Mountain Man by Alabama. So if you want to get to our Skills House lessons, that's the white button underneath your Ustream video window that you're looking at right now. All right, that is enough of me doing all of that stuff. Greg, thank you so much for being with us. What a treat and pleasure having you here. We had lunch today.
That's right.
And was at Gruhn's today with Greg. Wonderful.
Steve Kren's one of the best guitar players in Nashville, hands down. Guarantee it. Love Steve Kren's.
You guys are nuts. All right. All right, let me play you one thing. This is from our fingerstyle guitar course that I did a couple of months ago. This is a song called Lagrima. It's actually a classical guitar piece, but I don't have my classical guitar, so we're just going to do it on a regular guitar. All right, now that I'm in tune, it'll be even better. All right, Lagrima. right. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Good night.